Hi everyone, welcome back to my series, Behind the Scenes of a Real Estate Agent. And on today's episode 3, I'm going to delve into what exactly is a buyer consultation. So if you're a consumer and you've heard agents on social media say prepping for a buyer consultation or doing a buyer consultation, what exactly is that? And why would a buyer consultation benefit you? I'm also doing this video because in case there's any new real estate agents out there, in case you're wondering, how the heck do I do a buyer consultation? I'm going to show you the things that I bring with me on a buyer consultation, and I'm going to show you the steps on how I lay it out. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to do my entire presentation. I mean, it's about an hour long and it's also proprietary. So I'm not going to go through all of the nuts and bolts, but I wanted to just give you a brief glimpse on how I set it up with different sections and what I bring. And of course, if you are a prospective buyer or if you're a new real estate agent and you have any questions about anything that you see here today on this video, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to be your advocate and resource for all things real estate. And I think one of the reasons why, one of the reasons why I'm now doing these videos is not only to educate the consumer, but also to help out new real estate agents. And that's because my little sister, she's a brand new real estate agent in San Antonio, Texas. And, I've been in this business now for over 10 years. And I think when you're a seasoned agent, you forget what it's like being a new agent. Like, she calls me all the time and says, how do I do this? And how do I do this? And what's the best way for this? And I think about, oh my God, what did I do when I was a new agent? It's really hard to remember back then. And I just think now, especially since this business has gotten so complex now, more than what it ever was in the past, I think, oh my God, if you're a new agent, I could see how it could be totally overwhelming. So, for me, I thought this video would be two-pronged. It would help both the prospective buyer out there, someone that's really excited and energized about starting the path to home ownership and everything that it entails, as well as, the new agent that's out there that might be freaking out thinking, how do I go about this? So let's dive into it. And also one more thing, if you are a new agent and you're watching this video, stay tuned till the end. And I'm going to show you 3 websites that you could go to access a custom buyer and seller guide. So these are 3 sites. They're super affordable. They look custom, but they're really grab and go templates. And you just pop in your photo, your name, your contact info, and it looks like something you spent hours on designing, and it's super affordable. So anyway, let's go into the buyer consultation. So why do we do buyer consultations? I first want to start by saying buyer consultation is not for everyone. I used to always do a buyer consultation. Now I only do them for the right buyer. And what I mean by that is if you're a real estate investor, if you have a real estate investor client, it's a buyer that has purchased several times, they're a veteran buyer or seller. Time is money. No one really wants to waste an hour of their time. And a lot of these buyer consultations are geared towards the first-time home buyer. It walks you through the escrow process and the mortgage process and, what's to be expected when they're going down this journey of buying a home. And so this is really perfect for the first-time home buyer. So the first-time home buyer, they're so excited and jazzed because they're finally able to purchase property for the first time. They're really excited. They're like a sponge. They just take all the information that you give them, and it's really informative. And also, if you're a first-time home buyer, you're scared because this is a new process to you, and you really have no idea like how everything's going to work out. And it's nice to have someone there to hold your hand and walk you through the process. And before you start actually going out and looking at homes, having the consultative approach of sitting down with your real estate agent, either that you've already picked or that you're thinking about picking, taking the time to sit down with them and, see what their approach is. I always do an introduction about me, who I am, how I work, expectations that I have for my clients. I used to always take everyone, and I don't work with everyone now. I'm very selective with who I work with. And so in the old days, I used to have the clients just interview me. Now the clients interview me, but I also interview them to see if we're a right fit. So, the buyer consult is really an introduction to see, if we would work well together. And then I go over their goals and, their motivation. Why are they looking to buy a home? what is their motivation? Do they have a baby on the way? Are they downsizing? Are they relocating? Are they in a lease that's month to month, or does it have an expiration date on the lease and they have to move out ASAP and they need to move? So the first thing that I do when I sit down with them after I discuss a little bit about me and how I work, I go over their timeline. What is their timeline to move? What is their motivation to move? If they say we have to be in a house by November 1st, and then I know that the average escrow is 30 days, then I work it back. I work the timeline back. So then I say, okay, at the absolute latest, we need to be in escrow September 30th. And then from there, I ask them, how committed are you to the process of looking at homes? So meaning, if you're traveling a lot for work, maybe you're not available to go look at homes. Maybe there's also FaceTime. In this day and age, I'll FaceTime people for showings. Some people aren't comfortable with that though. Some people want to physically be present in the house. So I ask them, like, what is your availability like for showings? If there's someone that is committed to looking at homes, 4 homes in a row, 2 days a week, on the weekend, then you could get them into something pretty quickly. Also, if you know that the market is hot seller's market, it might take a few offers before they get one accepted. So then you start working back the timeline, and based on all the different factors, their availability for showings, how hot the market is in their particular area, then that's when you establish a timeline of the absolute latest you need to be going out looking at homes. And then I sit down with them and I go over all of their wants and needs. So what are their non-negotiable items? Is a garage non-negotiable? Is a location non-negotiable? Walk-in closet, is that a non-negotiable? Is a kitchen, nice kitchen, is that a non-negotiable? And then what are the items that are likes, but they're not deal breakers? So we would like a home with a pool, but if we don't have one, it's not a deal breaker. Or, and then I have the aspirational items. So that's like, we have a $500,000 budget. We want this neighborhood. We want it to be it has to have a good school district. And we'd really like a turnkey property with a really highly upgraded kitchen. But we understand in our price point, we're probably not going to get that, but we just want to let you know in case the unicorn exists, that kind of thing. So we always have like the 3 brackets, like their aspirational things that they want, things that they would really like to have if possible, and then their absolute non-negotiable items as things that they must have in order to purchase. So we go over those, and then from there we go over the lending process. So are they pre-approved yet? If they're not pre-approved, I give them lender referrals. Even if they are pre-approved, I still give them lender referrals. I always suggest that you shop around different lenders, not only see who's going to give you the best rate, but checking out all their Zillow reviews and Yelp reviews, Google reviews, seeing if everything that they told you over the phone is true, because you could usually fish that out in a review. So you can see, like, if you see reviews that say this person's great, we closed on time and they got me a great rate, then they're not going to do a bait and switch on you with the interest rate. You have a problem with some lenders. They'll tell you, and this is usually at big banks like Citibank, Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. The big banks will quote you a super low rate. And it's usually the bank that you're a customer at, and then, or like a credit union. And then what happens is when you're getting down towards the end of the line, they do what's called a bait and switch. Then they say, oh, actually for this rate, you didn't qualify for this rate. Now your rate is X. So I always suggest take the advice of your real estate agent on lender referrals, and we don't get kickbacks. The reason why we give you lender referrals is because we know the track record of these lenders. Most likely we've closed with these lenders before. We know they could close on time. We know they have a ton of different loan programs. We know they don't do bait and switches when it comes to interest rates. So also really take seriously the recommendations that your real estate agent might have for you for what lenders to use. So we go over the lenders, and then we also go over the actual mortgage process. So, what might be the best mortgage fit for you? And of course, they need to talk to a lender, but me, as a real estate agent, doing this for many years, I know a lot of different various products. I don't know the intricate details of them, but I know the basics of many different products that are out there. If you're a new real estate agent, I definitely would suggest getting educated with a lender in your area about just the basic products. Because there's not a one size fits all for a mortgage. There's, for instance, there's a 12 months bank statements loan where you don't need 2 years tax returns. You could get a loan with 12 months worth of bank statements. There are lending programs out there where if the property is zoned USDA, you could get a rule. If it's zoned rural, there's actually you qualify where it's called a USDA loan, which is a zero down loan. There's 5% down conventional loans. There's a ton of first time home buyer programs. There's lending programs that are specific for firefighters, nurses, police officers, teachers, things like that. So it's nice to have those types of loans in your back pocket that you could just briefly discuss and give them the overview on. And then after that, we go over the lending process. Then we dive into the escrow process. So what is escrow, and what is the roadmap through the start of the process all the way to closing day? And we go over the timelines in escrow. These are the important targets in escrow. For instance, on day 3, your earnest money deposit is due and it has to be in escrow. So we go through all the different, and the days of when you need to be doing your home inspection no later by, and the different types of home inspections that are available for you to do, and just walking you through the entire step-by-step process of the escrow process. It's also during this time, if I have a client that's relocating from an attorney state, I explain to them the differences between an escrow state and an attorney state. And the reason being is, in an attorney state, they have what's known as a hard closing table, meaning the you have attorneys, you have the agents from both sides, and you have both buyer and seller, and they show up at the same time, and they have a hard closing. They close right then and there at the table, and they shake hands at the end, and they essentially exchange keys and money. And in California and Washington, we don't do that. We have an escrow state. It's not as big of a finale, if you will. It's basically you wait until title records, and then you get confirmation of recording, and then you contact the other agent to coordinate keys, and then you meet at the house and you give the buyer the keys. So it's not as big of a grand finale. And I mention that because I one time had this client of mine. She was from the East Coast, and she had waited around all day, like waiting for the date to show up somewhere. And I felt so bad about that. So after that, I made sure of mentioning it several times actually throughout the process. Hey, we don't have a set date where you need to be somewhere. Like, you just got to wait until we record. So I always make sure of highlighting the differences between an attorney state and an escrow state. And then after I go over the escrow process, the final component is I go over the contract. And then I go over the contract piece by piece. And the reason why I do this is I don't want the buyer, the first-time home buyer, seeing the contract for the very first time when we're going to write an offer on a property, because then their main focus is the property and not really the intricate details of the contract. So I want them to see the contract first, to see what it is that they're going to be signing ahead of time, going over the pertinent paragraphs, the contingency periods, how contingency periods affect them, and then asking them, giving them a blank copy of the contract and saying, take this home, review it, and if there's anything that you would like me to go over in more detail after we go through this, feel free to call me at any time, and we will go over any of these paragraphs that you have a question on again. So then it gives them time. So not only do I review the contract with them, but it gives them time without me, and they're in their own time, in their own space, to review the contract again and see if there's anything else that jumps out at them that they want further review on. So that way, when it comes time to writing an offer, I DocuSign everything, and I don't have to go over every single thing of the contract. They've already seen the contract. You could quickly write up the offer, and then I just go over the bullet points with them of what we wrote in the offer, but they've already seen the contract. It's not foreign to them. And then also with that too, it's important when you're going over the contracts to really focus on the contingency periods, because one of your jobs as a real estate agent is to protect your client's money. So especially if you're a new real estate agent, or if you're a consumer and you're looking at interviewing an agent to represent you, you need to make sure that they're really educated on the contract, because you want to make sure that your money is protected. Meaning if there's something wrong with a house and you want to back out, how are you protected? That's what you want to know. How am I going to get my earnest money deposit back? So I really stress in the contract, you know, the contingency periods, their earnest money, when is the absolute last date to get their money back if they decide they want to back out. And if they don't back out by the time those contingency periods are up, you know, what happens to their money after that? So I always focus on the contingency periods. And then I ask them at the end, you know, do you have any other questions? You know, I try to get into like, you know, what are some of your fears for going down this process so I could address them in advance? You know, what are your trepidations about the process? And try to put their mind at ease on, you know, everything that's involved in it, and letting them know that I'm going to be here to hold their hand through the entire process and really make it as smooth as possible for them. So that is the overview of the buyer consultation. And then what I bring with me is I always bring with me a notebook, and it's a small little notebook. And you get these, I get these for $3 at Target. It's usually in the front of the store. They're just blank notebooks, but they're pretty on the outside. And I take this with me and I write notes. So I write notes. So they have their buyer guide where they could write notes. And then this is where I write my notes. So things that I'm observing, questions I might have down the road, taking notes about certain neighborhoods that I might be a good fit for them. You know, just taking down notes on various things that they're discussing with me when we're sitting down. So I always have a notebook. And then, of course, you always want to bring a copy of the contract. And then this you leave with them. This is the blank copy. And then I have, of course, the buyer guide that I give them that's a take home for them. I have two different types. So I'm with two different brokerages. I'm with Douglas Elliman in California and then Sotheby's in Seattle. So for California, I have this Buying Your Home Guide. It's a roadmap to your home buying process. And then I have a bunch of personal supplementals of my own branding that I add to this. And then for Sotheby's, it's all wrapped up into one. Sotheby's actually made this for me, which was really nice. It's custom to me. It has all my custom branding in it. And it's everything that I have with Elliman and the supplementals, but all bound into one. And it's really nice. It's got, you know, an about me section, my service pledge to them. It's got their workbook for them to answer questions on. It's got a thing about the mortgage process, who buys what does a buyer and seller traditionally pay for in escrow. And then my favorite is on the back. It has a resource guide of all the different things that they might need. So home inspector referrals, cleaner referrals, movers, locksmith, architects, and then it also has a list of useful links. So like the City of Seattle link, it has the school district link, it has all the different utility companies. So this is really, really nice. I'm actually in the process of recreating this for California. So this is my buyer book, but it's pretty in-depth. It's 25 pages. I really love these. These were really nice that Sotheby's created for their agents. But so that's the end of the video for the buyer consultation. But if you are a real estate agent, stay tuned and I will show you where do you go to get guides such as these. So your broker actually might have these. If they don't have them, or if you don't like them and you want something that looks nicer or more your style, I'm going to show you 3 websites that you could go to have these beautifully done buyer guides. They're pretty nice. My sister in Texas, she actually just showed me yesterday the one that she created from one of these sites, and it really came out really, really nice. So if you're on a budget, if you're new and you don't know where to go, this is where you go. So the first site is lresocial.com. It's $20 a month. They have buyer and seller guides. They have websites. They have social media templates. The websites are one-page websites, but you don't have to pay extra for that. So this is all inclusive for $20 a month. Then you have coffeecontracts.com. It's $34 a month. You also have buyer seller guides, social media templates. What's also nice though is they have, if you want to do posts on Instagram, they have home style posts, like pictures of houses, pictures of coffee, like random decorating stuff, things like that, with then captions. So you don't even have to think about the captions. You literally save the image and then copy and paste the caption for said image, and you just upload it into Instagram and post your caption. So it's really nice for Instagram on autopilot, if you will. And then the last one, and I haven't used this one, it's called agentcrate.com. They have 3 different subscription plans. I haven't really delved into that website that much, but I know that they have a lot of similar stuff like LRE Social and Coffee and Contracts. So those are the 3 websites I highly recommend checking out. And then I'm going to show you right now, just briefly, what those sites look like. Coffeecontracts.com. And this is some of, like, you can see some of the stuff they have. This is the templates I was talking about. This is Agent Crate. They have different plans. And then LRE Social, you got the buyer and seller guides. And I've used LRE Social and Coffee Contracts too. But these are really nice pieces. And again, if you don't have the money to spend for your own personal branding, these are really nice. And their buyer seller guides are nice. I just saw the one that my sister did. So that is it for episode 3, behind the scenes of a real estate agent. And again, if you have any questions about the home buying process, or if you're a new agent and you have any questions about a buyer consultation, would love to be your advocate for all things real estate. And you can reach me at 424-392-0082. And I will catch you guys on the next episode of Behind the Scenes of a Real Estate Agent.